The champagne flute shattered against the marble floor, its golden liquid pooling like spilled secrets. I stood frozen, my heart pounding, as my husband, Ethan, sneered from across the room, his voice dripping with venom. "You're nothing but a gold digger, Clara," clinging to my family's wealth like a leech. The words sliced through me, not because they were true, but because they came from the man I'd loved for 5 years. The man I thought knew me. It was our 3rd wedding anniversary, meant to be a celebration at his family's sprawling estate. Instead, it became the night everything unraveled. Ethan's parents, Margaret and Richard, sat stiffly on the velvet sofa, their faces unreadable but their eyes gleaming with quiet judgment. His sister, Vanessa, smirked from the corner, swirling her wine as if savoring the drama. The air was thick with tension, the kind that builds when lies fester too long. I'd spent years biting my tongue, playing the dutiful wife. But tonight, something snapped. "Ethan," I said, my voice steady despite the storm inside. "You don't know what you're talking about." His laugh was sharp, cutting. "Oh, please. You grew up in that rundown apartment, scraping by. You saw me and my family as your ticket out." The accusation stung, not because it was true, but because it revealed how little he understood me. I'd never told him the full story of my past, not out of shame, but because I wanted our love to be about us, not my wealth. The truth was, I was richer than Ethan's entire family combined. My fortune, built quietly through years of tech investments and a startup I'd sold before we met, was tucked away in private accounts, hidden behind a modest lifestyle. I'd chosen to live simply, to avoid the spotlight, to let Ethan believe his family's real estate empire made him the provider. But his words tonight, gold digger, lit a fuse I couldn't extinguish. "Clara, just admit it," Vanessa chimed in, her tone smug. "You've always been convenient, latching onto Ethan when he was at his peak." Margaret nodded subtly, her lips pursed. Richard, ever the patriarch, cleared his throat. "Let's not make a scene," he said, but his eyes flicked to me with suspicion. They all believed it. They'd always believed it. I took a deep breath, my hands trembling not with fear, but with resolve. "You want the truth?" I asked, locking eyes with Ethan. "Fine. Let's talk about money." His brow furrowed, confusion flickering across his face. I stepped forward, my voice rising. "You think I'm after your wealth, your family's crumbling empire. Ethan, I could buy your entire legacy with a single wire transfer." The room went silent. Ethan's smirk faltered. Vanessa's glass froze mid-swirl. Margaret's hand flew to her pearls, and Richard's jaw tightened. They didn't believe minute yet, but they would. I wasn't always Clara, the poised wife in designer dresses. I was born Clara Nguyen, daughter of immigrants who worked 3 jobs to keep the lights on in our tiny Chicago apartment. By 16, I was coding in my bedroom, building apps that caught the eye of tech giants. By 25, I'd sold my first startup for $50 million, reinvested every cent, and turned it into a fortune that dwarfed the net worth of Ethan's family. But I kept it quiet. I wanted a life of meaning, not flash. When I met Ethan at a charity gala, his charm and ambition drew me in. He didn't know about my wealth, and I didn't care about his. I thought we were building something real. We married 2 years later, and I moved into his world, a world of country clubs, old money, and subtle disdain. His family tolerated me, but their whispers were clear. I was the outsider, the poor girl who'd lucked into their son. I let them think that, swallowing their slights to keep the peace. Ethan, for his part, seemed to love me, but over time, his insecurities surfaced. He'd make offhand comments about my humble roots, my simple upbringing. I brushed them off, thinking love would outweigh pride. Tonight, though, he'd crossed a line. The anniversary dinner was supposed to be intimate, just us and his family, but Ethan's mood had soured days before. I'd overheard him talking to Vanessa about their company's financial troubles, debts piling up, deals falling through. He'd started drinking more, snapping at me over nothing. And now, this. Gold digger. The words echoed in my mind, each one a spark igniting years of suppressed anger. Clara, what are you talking about? Ethan demanded, his voice sharp but unsteady. I pulled my phone from my purse, opened my banking app, and turned the screen toward him. The numbers glowed, $287 million in liquid assets, not counting my investments. His eyes widened, then narrowed. This is a joke, he said, but his voice cracked. It's not, I replied, my tone calm but unyielding. I've never needed your money, Ethan. I never needed your family's name. I chose you because I loved you. But you've spent years looking down on me, believing I was less. Vanessa laughed nervously. Oh, come on. You expect us to believe you're some secret billionaire. Margaret leaned forward, her voice cold. If this is true, why hide it? Why play the pauper? Because I didn't want to be defined by it, I said, turning to her. I wanted to be loved for me, not my bank account. But clearly, that was a mistake. I looked at Ethan, my heart aching but resolute. You've made it clear what you think of me. So let's see how you handle the truth. Richard stood, his face red. This is absurd. You're trying to humiliate us. I shook my head. No, Richard. You've humiliated yourselves. You assumed I was nothing because I didn't flaunt my wealth. But let's be clear, your company. It's drowning in debt. I could save it or I could let it sink. The room felt like it was holding its breath. Ethan stared at me, his face a mix of shock and betrayal. I didn't want to destroy him, not yet. But I wasn't the fragile wife they thought I was. I was done playing small. The silence stretched, heavy and suffocating, as Ethan's family processed my words. The chandelier above cast jagged shadows across their faces, each one a mask of disbelief or anger. I stood firm, my phone still glowing with the truth. But inside, my heart was a battlefield, grief for the love I thought we had, fury at the betrayal of Ethan's words. You're lying. Ethan finally spat, his voice low but trembling. He stepped closer, his eyes searching mine for a crack in my resolve. You've been playing us all along, haven't you? Some kind of con artist. His accusation stung, but I held my ground. No, Ethan. I've been playing your game, pretending I fit into your world, pretending your family's approval mattered. But I'm done. Vanessa snorted, crossing her arms. So, what? You're saying you're richer than us, and we're supposed to just believe you? Show us proof, real proof, not some doctored screenshot. Her challenge hung in the air, and I almost laughed. They still thought I was bluffing, clinging to their fragile pride. Fine, I said, my voice steady. Tomorrow, I'll have my financial advisor send over the documents. Bank statements, investment portfolios, the sale contracts from my startup. You'll see every cent. I turned to Ethan, my gaze unwavering. But let's not pretend this is about proof. This is about you not trusting me, not loving me enough to see who I really am. Margaret's voice cut in, sharp and icy. If you're so wealthy, Clara, why marry Ethan? Why live like this? She gestured vaguely at my simple black dress, as if it were evidence of poverty. I smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Because I didn't need to prove anything to you. I loved Ethan. I thought that was enough. Richard cleared his throat, his tone patronizing. Let's say this is true. What do you want? To lord it over us? To embarrass us? I shook my head. I wanted a family, Richard. But all I got was judgment. You've spent years treating me like I wasn't good enough. Now you know the truth. And it's not my fault it hurts. Ethan's face twisted, a mix of anger and something softer regret. Maybe. Clara, why didn't you tell me? His voice was quieter now, almost pleading. I stepped closer, My eyes locked on his. Because I shouldn't have had to. You should have loved me for me, not for what I could bring to your family's table. The room fell silent again, the weight of my words settling like dust. I turned to leave, my heels clicking against the marble. I'll be at the hotel tonight, I said over my shoulder. Tomorrow, we'll talk about what comes next. Ethan called after me, but I didn't stop. The door closed behind me, and the cool night air hit my face like a slap. I was free, but I was breaking. I checked into a suite at the Four Seasons, the city skyline glittering through the floor-to-ceiling windows. I didn't sleep. Instead, I sat at the desk, my laptop open, pulling up the documents that would prove my worth not to them, but to myself. I emailed my advisor, Sophia, instructing her to compile everything: the sale of my startup, my investment returns, my real estate holdings. By morning, a courier would deliver the truth to Ethan's family. As dawn broke, my phone buzzed with a text from Ethan. Can we talk? I'm sorry. I stared at the words, my chest tightening. Sorry wasn't enough. Not after he'd humiliated me in front of his family. Not after years of their quiet disdain. But a part of me still ached for him. For the man who'd once made me laugh until my sides hurt. Who'd promised to build a life with me. I typed back, meet me at the lawyer's office. 10 a.m. I wasn't sure what I wanted yet: divorce, reconciliation, or something in between, but I knew one thing. I was done letting them define me. At the lawyer's office, Sophia was already waiting, her briefcase stuffed with documents. She was a no-nonsense woman in her 50s, with sharp eyes and a sharper mind. You sure about this, Clara? She asked, handing me a coffee. Once you show them, there's no going back. I nodded. They need to know, and I need to stop hiding. Ethan arrived alone, his face haggard, his tie loosened. He looked like he hadn't slept either. Clara, he started, but I held up a hand. Sit, I said, pointing to the chair across from me. Sophia slid the folder across the table. These are my financial records, I said. Read them. All of them. He hesitated, then opened the folder. His eyes scanned the pages: bank statements showing 9-figure balances, contracts for my startup sale, investment portfolios with staggering returns. His hands trembled as he turned the pages, his face growing paler with each one. This is real, he whispered. Very real, Sophia said, her tone dry. Clara's net worth is approximately $320 million, give or take. More than your family's entire estate, including the business. Ethan's eyes met mine, wide with shock. Why didn't you tell me? He asked again, his voice breaking. Because I wanted you to love me for me, I said, my voice steady but laced with pain. Not for this. I gestured to the papers. But you made it clear last night that you never did. You saw me as a gold digger. Ethan, you believed your family's lies about me. He shook his head, his eyes glistening. I was wrong. I was angry, stressed about the company. I didn't mean it. I leaned forward, my voice low. You meant it enough to say it in front of them. You meant it enough to let them believe it for years. Sophia cleared her throat. Clara, what do you want to do? I looked at Ethan, my heart torn between love and betrayal. I don't know yet, I said, but I'm not the woman you thought I was. And I'm done pretending to be. Ethan sat across from me, the folder of my financial records still open in his hands. His eyes darted over the numbers, as if hoping they'd change. But they didn't. The truth was undeniable, and it was tearing him apart. I wanted to feel triumph, to revel in his shock, but all I felt was a hollow ache. This wasn't the man I'd fallen in love with, or maybe it was, and I'd been too blind to see it. Clara, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. I didn't know. I'm sorry. The words sounded genuine, but they were too late. I leaned back in my chair, studying him. His tailored suit, his polished watch, His carefully curated image of success, it all felt like a facade now. Sorry doesn't erase what you said, I replied, or what you believed. Sophia tapped her pen on the table, her expression neutral but her eyes sharp. Clara, we can discuss next steps, legal, financial, personal, but you need to decide what you want. I nodded, my mind racing. Divorce was the obvious choice, but the thought of it twisted my stomach. Despite everything, a part of me still loved Ethan. Or maybe I loved the idea of him, the man I'd hoped he could be. I need time, I said finally. But I want the family to know. They need to see the truth. Ethan's face tightened. You're going to show them all of this? He asked, gesturing to the folder. I nodded. They've judged me for years. Ethan, they don't get to hide from this. He ran a hand through his hair, his composure cracking. They'll lose it. My dad, he's already stressed about the company. This could destroy him. I raised an eyebrow. Destroy him? Or destroy his pride? Because from where I'm sitting, your family's been living on borrowed time, pretending your empire isn't crumbling. Ethan flinched, and I knew I'd hit a nerve. His family's real estate business, once a titan in the city, was bleeding money. Failed investments, bad loans, and a market crash had left them scrambling. I'd overheard enough of Ethan's late-night calls to know they were desperate for a bailout. And now, here I was, the gold digger, with the power to save them or let them fall. That afternoon, I returned to the estate. Ethan had begged me to keep it private, but I wasn't here to protect their egos. Margaret, Richard, and Vanessa were waiting in the drawing room, their faces a mix of curiosity and suspicion. I set the folder on the coffee table, its weight seeming to anchor the room. What's this? Richard asked, his tone clipped. I met his gaze. Proof, I said simply. You've spent years thinking I was after your money. This is the truth about mine. I opened the folder, spreading the documents across the table: bank statements, contracts, tax records. Their eyes widened as they scanned the numbers, the reality sinking in. Vanessa laughed, but it was brittle. This is ridiculous. You expect us to believe you're worth, what, hundreds of millions? Sophia, who'd insisted on coming, spoke up. $320 million. To be exact. I verified every document. Clara's wealth is legitimate, and it surpasses your family's by a wide margin. Margaret's face paled, her hand clutching her necklace. Richard's jaw worked silently, his eyes fixed on the papers. Vanessa shook her head, muttering, No way. This is a scam. I leaned forward, my voice steady. It's not. And you know it. You've spent years looking down on me, assuming I was nothing. But I've been funding charities, investing in startups, building a legacy while your company's been sinking. Richard's voice was hoarse. Why hide it? Why let us think? He trailed off, unable to finish. I sighed. Because I didn't want to be defined by money. I wanted to be part of this family, not its savior. But you made it clear I was never good enough. Ethan, who'd been silent, finally spoke. Clara, I didn't know. I swear. I didn't. I turned to him, my heart heavy. That's the problem. Ethan, you didn't know me. You saw what you wanted to see, a poor girl who needed you. But I never did. The room was suffocating, their shock and shame palpable. I stood, gathering the documents. I'm not here to gloat, I said, but I'm done letting you define me. You can keep your pride, your company, your name. I don't need any of it. As I walked out, Vanessa called after me, her voice sharp. What are you going to do? Ruin us? I paused at the door, glancing back. I haven't decided yet. But I'm not the one who's been ruining you. You've done that yourselves. That night, I sat alone in my hotel room, the city lights blurring through my tears. I'd spent years building a life with Ethan, hoping for love, for family. Now, it felt like ash. My phone buzzed messages from friends, from Sophia, even from Ethan's cousin, who'd always been kind. But I couldn't face them yet. I needed to figure out who I was without the weight of their judgment. The next morning, I met with Sophia again. Your options, she said, laying out papers. Divorce, separation, or reconciliation. Financially, you're untouchable. Their company, Thuffet's weeks from collapse without a major infusion of cash. I nodded, my mind racing. I could walk away, let them drown in their debts. Or I could help, but on my terms. What about the company? I asked. Sophia raised an eyebrow. You want to save it? I hesitated. Not for them. For me. To show I can. She smiled faintly. You could buy it outright. Restructure it. Turn it around. But it's a risk. I looked out the window. The city sprawling below. I've taken risks before, I said. And I've won. The city skyline glittered like a promise. But my reflection in the hotel window looked haunted. I'd spent years hiding my strength, my wealth, my truth, all to fit into Ethan's world. Now, with their empire teetering and my heart bruised, I had a choice, walk away or rewrite the story on my terms. Sophia's words echoed in my mind. You could buy it outright. Their company, Hamilton Properties, was a sinking ship, but I saw potential not in their name, but in the assets, the land, the opportunities they'd squandered. I'd built a tech empire from nothing. I could rebuild theirs, but it wouldn't be for them. It would be for me, to prove I was more than their assumptions. I called Sophia that evening, set up a meeting with their board. I said, I want to make an offer. Her voice crackled with surprise. Clara, this is a multi-million-dollar move. Are you sure? I stared at my reflection. My jaw set. I'm sure. They need to see what I'm capable of. The boardroom was a sterile contrast to the opulence of Ethan's family estate. Glass walls, polished oak, and 10 grim-faced executives stared at me as I entered. Sophia at my side. Richard sat at the head of the table, his posture rigid, while Ethan stood by the window, his eyes avoiding mine. Vanessa was there too, her arms crossed, her smirk replaced by unease. Thank you for meeting me, I began, my voice steady. I'm here to offer a solution to Hamilton Properties' financial crisis. Richard's eyes narrowed. A solution? Or a takeover? I smiled faintly. Call it what you want. I'm prepared to invest $50 million to stabilize the company, with an option to acquire a controlling stake. The room erupted in murmurs. Vanessa leaned forward, her voice sharp. You're trying to steal our legacy. I met her gaze. Your legacy is drowning in debt. I'm offering to save it, but not for free. I want a seat on the board, full transparency, and a restructuring plan that I oversee. Richard's face reddened. This is our company, Clara, our family's name. I nodded. And it's failing. Your developments are over-leveraged. Your investors are pulling out. And your reputation is crumbling. I can fix it. I've done it before. I slid a proposal across the table, detailing my plan: sell off non-performing assets, pivot to sustainable projects, and rebrand under a new vision. Ethan finally spoke, his voice strained. Clara, why are you doing this? To humiliate us. I turned to him, my heart aching but resolute. No, Ethan. To show you who I am. You call me a gold digger. This is me proving I don't need your goldie make my own. The boardroom fell silent. Sophia handed out copies of my financials, reinforcing my credibility. The executives read in stunned silence, their skepticism giving way to reluctant respect. Richard cleared his throat. We'll need time to review this. I nodded. You have 48 hours. After that, the offer's off the table. That night, Ethan showed up at my hotel. He looked wrecked, his eyes red, his shirt untucked. Clara, he said, his voice raw, can we talk? Just us. I hesitated, then let him in. He sat on the edge of the couch, his hands clasped. I messed up, he said. I let my family's expectations, their pressure, cloud everything. I didn't see you. I sat across from him, my arms crossed. You didn't want to see me, Ethan. You wanted a wife who fit your narrative, someone you could save. But I never needed saving. He flinched, his eyes glistening. I know that now. I read your proposal. It's brilliant. You're brilliant. I just wish I'd seen it sooner. His words stirred something in me, hope. Maybe. Or just the ghost of what we'd had. But I couldn't let it sway me. I loved you, I said, my voice breaking. But love isn't enough when there's no trust. You humiliated me, Ethan. You let your family believe I was nothing. He stood, stepping closer. I want to fix this. I want us to fix this. I shook my head, tears burning my eyes. I don't know if we can. But I'm not doing this to hurt you. I'm doing it to reclaim myself. He left without another word, the door clicking shut like a final note. I sank onto the couch, my chest tight. I'd spent years building walls to protect my heart, my wealth, my truth. Now, those walls were crumbling, and I didn't know what was left. The next day, I met with Sophia to finalize the proposal. They're desperate, she said, scanning her tablet. The board's leaning toward accepting, but Richard's fighting it. He doesn't want to lose control. I nodded. He won't have a choice. They're out of options. By evening, Richard called. We've reviewed your proposal, he said, his voice tight. We'll accept the $50 million, but we're not giving you a controlling stake. I laughed softly. Then you get nothing. I'm not here to prop up your ego. Richard, take the deal, or I walk. He hung up, but I knew he'd call back. They always did when the numbers didn't lie. Sure enough, the next morning, Sophia forwarded their signed agreement. I was now a majority shareholder in Hamilton Properties, with the power to reshape either let it burn. As I signed the papers, my phone buzzed. A text from Ethan, I'm proud of you. And I'm sorry. I stared at the words, my heart torn. Pride wasn't enough. Apologies weren't enough. But maybe, just maybe, this was the start of something new, not for us, but for me. The ink was barely dry on the contract when I walked into Hamilton Properties headquarters, my heels echoing in the sleek lobby. The staff glanced up, their whispers trailing me like a shadow. I was no longer just Ethan's Wi-Fi, was their new majority shareholder, the woman who'd saved their company from collapse. But I wasn't here to play savior. I was here to rebuild, to prove I could turn their crumbling empire into something extraordinary. Sophia met me in the boardroom, her tablet glowing with data. The numbers are worse than we thought, she said, sliding it toward me. They've been hiding losses for years. You've got your work cut out. I nodded, scanning the reports. Failed projects, bloated budgets, and a culture of arrogance had bled the company dry. But I saw potential prime real estate, untapped markets, and a chance to pivot towards sustainable development. Let's get to work, I said. I want a full audit by next week, and schedule meetings with the top developers. We're rethinking everything. Sophia raised an eyebrow. You're diving in head first. I smiled faintly. It's what I do. The next few weeks were a whirlwind. I spent days poring over financials, meeting with architects, and pitching new projects to investors. My vision was bold: eco-friendly developments, affordable housing, and community-focused spaces. The board grumbled change didn't come easy to people like Richard, but they had no choice. My money, my rules. Ethan kept his distance, though his texts came daily. Can we talk? I miss you. You're doing incredible things. I didn't respond. Not because I didn't care, but because I was rediscovering myself. The Clara who'd hidden her wealth, her strength, was gone. In her place was a woman who commanded boardrooms, who turned heads not with dresses, but with decisions. One evening, Vanessa cornered me in the office. Her usual smirk was gone, replaced by something like fear. "Clara," she said, her voice low, "you're tearing everything apart. This company, it's our family's legacy." I leaned back in my chair, studying her. "Your legacy was failing, Vanessa. I'm giving it a future. You're welcome to help. Or you can stay out of my way." She bristled, but didn't argue. For the first time, I saw a flicker of respect in her eyes. "You're not what I thought," she said finally. I nodded. "None of you were." That night, I drove to the lakefront, needing air, needing clarity. The city lights danced on the water, and I let myself feel the weight of the past weeks. I'd taken control of Hamilton Properties, but my marriage was still a question mark. Ethan's apologies echoed in my mind, but so did his words, "gold digger." Could I ever trust him again? My phone buzzed. A voicemail from Margaret. Of all people. "Clara." Her voice was strained. We misjudged you. I'm sorry. I'd like to talk, if you're willing." I stared at the phone, stunned. Margaret, the queen of icy disdain, apologizing. It felt like a crack in their armor, but I wasn't ready to forgive. The next day, I met Ethan for coffee. He looked older, his eyes shadowed with regret. "Clara," he said, "I know I don't deserve you, but I'm trying to be better. I'm seeing a therapist, working on my insecurities. I want to earn your trust again." I sipped my coffee, my heart torn. "It's not just about trust," I said. "It's about respect. You didn't respect me, Ethan. You let your family's narrative define me." He nodded, his jaw tight. "I know, and I hate myself for it. But watching you now taking over the company, turning it around, I am in awe. I want to be part of that. Part of you." His words stirred something in me, but I wasn't ready to let him back in. "I need time," I said, "and you need to figure out who you are without your family's shadow." He reached for my hand, but I pulled back. "I'm not giving up," he said softly. I nodded, my throat tight. "Then prove it." By the end of the month, Hamilton Properties was showing signs of life. My first projected sustainable housing complex broke ground, earning praise from investors and the press. The headlines called me a visionary, a game changer. I didn't care about the praise. I cared about the impact. Families would have homes. Communities would thrive. And I was making it happen. Richard called a board meeting, his tone grudgingly respectful. "Clara," he said, "your plan is working. Revenue projections are up for the first time in years." I nodded, keeping my expression neutral. "Good. But we're just getting started." Vanessa, sitting across from me, offered a tentative smile. "I want in," she said. "I can help with marketing." I raised an eyebrow but nodded. "Prove it." As I left the meeting, Ethan was waiting in the hall. "Can I walk you out?" he asked. I hesitated, then agreed. We walked in silence, the tension between us heavy but not hostile. "I'm proud of you," he said finally. "Not because of the money, but because of who you are." I stopped, looking at him. "I'm still figuring out who that is," I said, "but I'm not hiding anymore." He smiled, a flicker of the man I'd loved. "I'll wait," he said, "as long as it takes." I didn't respond, but as I walked away, I felt a spark of hope, not for us, but for me. I was building something new, and no one could take that away. The groundbreaking ceremony for the housing complex was a triumph. Under a clear spring sky, I stood before a crowd of investors, city officials, and reporters, my voice steady as I outlined my vision: homes for working families, green spaces, a community built on hope. The applause was deafening, but it was the faces of the future resident single mothers, young couples, retirees that stayed with me. This was why I'd fought for control of Hamilton Properties. Not for revenge, but for purpose. Back at the office, the mood was shifting. The staff, once wary, now greeted me with cautious respect. Vanessa, true to her word, had thrown herself into the marketing campaign. Her ideas sharp and effective. Even Richard, though still gruff, deferred to me in meetings. The company was stabilizing, but my personal life was another story. Ethan's efforts to reconnect were relentless. Flowers arrived at my hotel. Handwritten notes tucked among the roses. I'm learning. I'm changing. I love you. He'd started volunteering at a local nonprofit, something he'd never done before. Part of me admired his effort, but the wound was still raw. I couldn't unhear his words. Couldn't erase the years of feeling like an outsider in his family. One evening, Margaret invited me to dinner at the estate. I almost declined, but curiosity and maybe a flicker of hope made me say yes. The dining room was quieter this time, the tension softer but still present. Margaret, Richard, and Vanessa sat across from me, Ethan at my side. The meal was simple, a far cry from their usual extravagance, and I wondered if it was a gesture of humility. Clara, Margaret began, her voice hesitant. I owe you an apology. I misjudged you. I let my assumptions blind me. Her eyes were sincere, a rarity for her. Richard nodded, his expression tight. You've saved the company, he said. We didn't see it coming. Vanessa chimed in, her tone softer than I'd ever heard. I was a jerk. I'm sorry. I set down my fork, my chest tight. Thank you, I said, my voice steady. But apologies don't erase the past. You made me feel like I didn't belong, like I was less. I'm not here to punish you, but I need you to understand what that did to me. Ethan reached for my hand under the table, but I pulled away. Clara, he said softly, I know I hurt you most of all. I'm trying to be better, but I need you to tell me what you need. I looked at him, my heart aching. I need time, I said, and I need you to respect that. The rest of the dinner was quiet, but something had shifted. They weren't my family not yet, but they were starting to see me. As I left, Margaret pulled me aside. You're extraordinary, she said, her voice low. I hope you'll give us a chance to make this right. I nodded, but I didn't promise anything. Over the next month, I threw myself into work. The housing complex was ahead of schedule, and 2 more projects, green office spaces and a community center, were greenlit. The press called me a trailblazer, but I didn't care about the headlines. I cared about the impact, about building something that mattered. Ethan, meanwhile, kept showing up not just with gestures, but with actions. He joined me at a charity event, charming donors with genuine warmth. He started attending board meetings, not as a power play, but to learn from me. One night, he showed up at my hotel with takeout and a shy smile. No pressure, he said, just dinner. We ate on the balcony, the city humming below. For the first time in months, we laughed about nothing, about everything. But when he leaned in to kiss me, I pulled back. I'm not ready, I said. His face fell, but he nodded. I'll wait, he said, and I believed him. One morning, Sophia called with news. The company's valuation is up 20%, she said. Your projects are drawing major investors. You've turned it around. I smiled. A weight lifting. Good. Let's keep going. But as I hung up, I realized something. I wasn't just rebuilding the company. I was rebuilding myself. That afternoon, I met Ethan at the lakefront, where we'd had our first date. He looked nervous, his hands stuffed in his pockets. Clara, he said, I know I don't deserve you, but I'm in love with you, not the money, not the power, but you, the woman who built an empire, who's changing lives. I want to be by your side, even if it's just as your friend. His words hit me hard, cracking the walls I'd built. I looked out at the water, my heart racing. I don't know if I can trust you again, I said, but I'm willing to try. Slowly, his face lit up, a tentative hope in his eyes. That's all I need, he said. As we walked along the shore, I felt a shift. Not forgiveness. Not yet. But possibility. I was no longer the woman who'd hidden her strength. I was Clara Nguyen, and I was writing my own story, one where I defined my worth. My love. My future. The lakefront breeze carried the scent of spring, and as I walked beside Ethan, I felt the weight of the past year settle into something new, not resolution, but clarity. I'd spent months reclaiming my voice, my power, my truth. Now, standing at the edge of the water, I realized I was ready to decide what came next, not just for Hamilton Properties, but for me. Ethan didn't push, didn't plead. He walked quietly, his presence steady but not demanding. "I've been thinking," he said finally, his voice soft, "about who I was, who I want to be. I let my family's expectations define me. Clara, I won't do that anymore." I glanced at him, his eyes fixed on the horizon. "And who do you want to be?" I asked. He stopped, turning to me. "Someone who deserves you. Not because of money or status, but because I see you really see you." His words were raw, unguarded, and for the first time in months, I felt a flicker of the love we'd once had. But I wasn't ready to leap. "We'll see," I said, my voice gentle but firm. "It's going to take time." Back at Hamilton Properties, the transformation was undeniable. The housing complex was nearly complete, its sleek, eco-friendly design drawing national attention. The community center opened its doors, offering free classes and resources to families. Investors were clamoring to back my next projects, and the board, once resistant, now followed my lead. Vanessa had become an unexpected ally, her marketing campaigns amplifying our mission. Even Richard, though still proud, acknowledged my vision with grudging respect. One afternoon, Margaret called me to the estate. I expected another apology, but instead, she handed me a small box. Inside was a delicate jade pendant, a family heirloom. "This was my mother's," she said, her voice soft. "I want you to have it not as a bribe, but as a promise. We're trying to be better. Clara." I held the pendant, its weight grounding me. "Thank you," I said, and I meant it. It wasn't forgiveness, but it was a start. That evening, I sat in my office, the city skyline glowing beyond the window. Sophia stopped by, her expression proud. "You've done it," she said. "The company's thriving, and you're the reason why." I smiled, but my mind was elsewhere. "It's not just about the company," I said. "It's about who I am now." She nodded, understanding. "And Ethan?" I sighed. "I don't know. He's trying. But trust is hard to rebuild." Sophia squeezed my shoulder. "You'll figure it out. You always do." Over the next few weeks, Ethan and I started small coffee dates, long walks, honest conversations. He opened up about his insecurities, his fear of failing his family's legacy. I shared my own fears of being defined by my wealth, of losing myself in love. We weren't the same couple we'd been, but maybe that was okay. Maybe we could build something new. One night, he invited me to the nonprofit where he volunteered. I watched him teach a coding class to kids from low-income families, his enthusiasm infectious. Afterward, he pulled me aside. "This is because of you," he said. "You showed me what it means to use power for good." I smiled, my heart softening. "You're doing this for you, Ethan, not for me." He took my hand, and this time, I didn't pull away. "I know," he said, "but I want you in my life, however you'll have me." I looked into his eyes, seeing not just regret, but growth. "Let's take it one day at a time," I said. He nodded, a hopeful smile breaking through. 6 months later, Hamilton Properties was unrecognizable. Profits were up, projects were thriving, and the company's new mission, sustainability and community, had earned it a place on every major business list. I stood on the balcony of the community center, watching families move into the housing complex. A young girl waved at me, her smile bright. and I felt a warmth I hadn't known in years. Ethan joined me, his presence familiar yet new. "You did this," he said, his voice full of awe. I shook my head. "We did this. All of us." He smiled, and for the first time, I saw the man I'd fallen in love with, not perfect, but trying. "I love you, Clara," he said, "not for what you've done, but for who you are." I looked at him, my heart full but cautious. "I love you too," I said, the words surprising me. "But we're starting over. No assumptions. No shadows." He nodded, his eyes bright. "Deal." As we stood together, the city stretching before us, I felt a quiet strength. I'd been called a gold digger, an outsider, a nobody, but I'd rewritten the story. I was Clara Nguyen Builder, dreamer, survivor, and whatever came next, I'd face it on my terms.